I'm Teisha Bader with the JBS News Update for Friday, December the 19th, 2014. A rocket was fired at Israel today from Gaza. It exploded near the Eshkol Regional Council in an open field. No damage or injury was reported. The rocket was the third launched at Israel since the end of the war with Hamas in Gaza this summer. Meanwhile, Israel radio citing Palestinian sources reported that Hamas is diverting funds meant for the reconstruction of Gaza after the conflict in order to repair and rebuild their network of terror tunnels there. The United States said that it plans to veto a Palestinian United Nations Security Council resolution that sets a deadline for Israeli withdrawal from the West Bank.
We have seen the draft. It is not something we would support, and we think others feel the same and are calling for further consultations.
The resolution was presented by Jordan to the UNSC on Wednesday. It calls for a peace agreement between Israel and the Palestinians within 1 year based on the pre-1967 borders with, quote, mutually agreed limited equivalent land swaps and Israeli withdrawal from the West Bank by the end of the year 2017. U.S. President Barack Obama yesterday signed the No Social Security for Nazis Act into law, closing a loophole that had allowed benefits to be paid to former Nazis that had been identified and deported by the U.S. Justice Department. The act was passed unanimously by the House and the Senate earlier this month. The president of Harvard University has asked for an investigation into a decision made by the school's dining services to stop purchasing Israeli-made soda machines. Student paper The Harvard Crimson had published an article this week about the Sodastream boycott, and Provost Alan Garber told them in response that President Drew Faust has asked for an investigation into the decision, which was apparently made after protests from Palestinian students. Garber said Harvard University's procurement decisions should not and will not be driven by individuals' views of highly contested matters of political controversy, adding, if this policy is not currently known or understood in some parts of the university, that will be rectified now. Sodastream has often been the target of the BDS, or Boycott, Divestment, and Sanctions movement, which seeks to delegitimize the State of Israel. In an op-ed to the Jerusalem Post on the matter, former law professor at Harvard, Alan Dershowitz, noted that Sodastream, whose factory is in the West Bank city of Ma'ale Adumim and employs hundreds of Israeli Arabs and Palestinians, because of BDS efforts, decided to move their factory to the Negev in southern Israel next year. Dershowitz writes, as a result of misguided boycotts, such as the one unilaterally adopted by the Harvard University dining services, Sodastream has been forced to move its factory to an area in Israel where few, if any, Arabs can be employed. This, he said, is not a victory for human rights. It is a victory for human wrongs. The Associated Press reports that a Catholic university in Poland will award Holocaust survivor, Nobel laureate, and author Elie Wiesel with an honorary doctorate to recognize his efforts to expose the horrors of the Holocaust and to defend human dignity. Spokeswoman for the Pontifical University of John Paul II in Krakow, Monika Wirtek, told the AP today that the University Senate voted unanimously to honor Wiesel this week. Renowned Rabbi, groundbreaking Jewish leader, author, and social activist Rabbi Harold Schulweis passed away early yesterday morning at the age of 89 after battling heart disease. Schulweis was considered among the most influential synagogue leaders of his generation. He led Temple Valley Beth Shalom in Encino, California for almost 45 years, where, according to VBS senior rabbi and friend Ed Feinstein, he transformed his synagogue into a living laboratory of social activism and creative spiritual life. Rabbi Irving Yitz Greenberg described Schulweis as one of the great teachers of our people's history. Schulweis was born in New York City and graduated from Yeshiva University. He was ordained at the Jewish Theological Seminary of America. He wrote 9 books, hundreds of articles, and founded several social justice groups, including Jewish World Watch, the leading coalition against genocide, and Mazon, a Jewish response to hunger, which he co-founded. Schulweis was among the first conservative rabbis to welcome gay and lesbian Jews into his synagogue. He also worked to actively include children and young adults with disabilities into synagogue life. Feinstein said Rabbi Schulweis found the presence of God in acts of moral courage, compassion, and human decency. He constantly reminded us that we are the hands of God in this world. Harold Schulweis is survived by his wife, 3 children, and 11 grandchildren. His funeral will take place this Sunday in Encino.